All right, we'll call the our meeting of the September 17th Cookeville City Council to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Woodford. Councilman Henry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Womack.
Here.
4 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by Pastor Joe Roberts, College Side Church of Christ, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
Thanks. I invite you to pray together with me. Father, we thank you and give you thanks for every day for the bountiful blessings of this time of the year. We want to thank you for our community, for those that care for it, those who show compassion to it. We thank you for these leaders, and I pray that you would help each of us to honor you and to love one another as you've called us to. We thank you for Jesus, and it's through his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 will consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
There are no changes, Mayor.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on September 3rd, 2015. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Old business 5B, consider on second and final reading ordinance 0150821, amendments to the zoning code by revising certain provisions of section 205 and 219 relative to off-street parking requirements and high-density residential development in the CBD Central Business District. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, Mayor, as you stated, this amends the provisions of the CBD district to allow higher density residential development. It is done subject to several conditions. First, you have to submit a site plan or a subdivision plat, if applicable, to the Planning Commission for their review and approval, and it's subject to several conditions. Those are, you must have there's a maximum height established, and setback requirements are applied if the structure is over 3 stories or 35 feet in height. You must have verification that you have adequate water and sewer available. The units are limited to 3 bedrooms, a maximum per dwelling unit. The minimum size requirements for dwelling units are based on the number of bedrooms, and it also must comply with architectural design requirements. The ordinance does not reduce the minimum off-street parking requirements, which is currently 1.25 spaces per bedroom for the first 50 dwelling units. The amendments were unanimously approved by the Planning Commission and are recommended by the Planning Department. We've had no calls or comments since first reading.
Very good. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion among the council? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Yes, sir, Ms. Henry.
Mr. Mayor, if I could offer this this additional motion in relation to this issue, I'd like to move that the Planning Department prepare for the Planning Commission's review an amendment to the zoning code to reduce the minimum off-street parking requirements for townhouses, condominiums, efficiency apartments, and multifamily dwellings located in the Central Business District zoning district. And I offer that motion.
Very good. We have a motion. I will second it. Any discussion among the council?
I'm concerned about this, and I think that it's reasonable because other entities in the Central Business District of their communities have less parking required than we do. However, parking is at a crisis, not at a crisis, but it's very difficult in the downtown area, and I think we need to ask the Planning Commission to also look at how much parking we have in the Central Business District and what other places have done, such as Murfreesboro, Morristown, Gallatin, all the places on the board for parking in the downtown area, for public parking in the downtown area. So I think I don't want to amend the motion. I just want to study it.
Sure. Very good. Anything else? I'll vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
I could say we are in the process of studying parking in the downtown. We're updating our study that we did in 2003. We hope to have that done within a month or so we'll have current numbers on parking.
All right, thank you. 5C, consider on second and final reading ordinance 0150924, updating the Occupational Health and Safety Program Plan for the City of Cookeville. Gail Fowler.
Mayor and Council, as you'll recall, last week we presented this. It's basically some housekeeping. We've added one new OSHA requirement. We changed some appendixes that indicated work locations. We updated the City of Cookeville elected officials list and then added Mike Davidson as the new administrative official as city manager. No changes since last reading, and it is required to be done by ordinance because it's in the municipal code. So I respectfully request your approval.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion among the council? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 6, consent agenda. A, consider resetting public hearing date from 10/1/15 to 10/15/15 on ordinance 0150922, rezoning a portion of 1061 Salem Church Road consisting of 3.41 acres from RS15 to CR. And item B, consider resetting public hearing date from 10/1/15 to 10/15/15 on ordinance 0150923, rezoning the remainder of Highlands Business Park properties from RS20 to CI. And do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 7, new business. A, consider authorizing Waller, Lansden, Dortch, and Davis as bond counsel for the proposed issuance of up to $10 million in general obligation bonds series 2015. Ms. Imel.
Mayor and council members, this is the first of 4 items we actually have on the agenda tonight related to a proposed bond issue. The first item is the approval of the bond counsel. Waller, Lansden, Dortch, and Davis has served as the city's bond counsel on the last few issues we have done, and we're recommending using them one more time. Their fee for the service would be $15,000, and that would be paid from the proceeds of the bond. Some of the services they would provide would be a bond opinion regarding the validity and binding effect of the bonds and the excludability of taxes, that they're tax exempt. They'd also prepare all the documents necessary for the issuance of the bonds, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7B, consider authorizing Cumberland Securities Company Incorporated as financial advisor and bond fiscal agent for the proposed issuance of up to $10 million in general obligation bond series 2015. Finance Director Imel.
Yes, this item is the approval of the financial advisor for these bonds. And if you recall, earlier this summer, we had done an RFP for a financial advisor, and you approved our selection of Cumberland Securities. At that time, we informed you that we would bring you specific fees back for your approval as we got closer to issuing those bonds. And in their financial advisor role, Cumberland Securities will do a number of things for us. They will prepare and publish the official notices relating to the bonds and advertise the sale of the bonds in accordance with state law and the city's debt policy. They'll coordinate and prepare and deliver all documents required for the issuance of the bond, and they will coordinate and supervise the bid process and evaluate the bids to determine the most favorable bid to the city. Their fee for providing that service will be $29,950. Additional bond costs, which under our debt management policy we're required to make you aware of, is $1,000 for preparing and publishing the official notice of sale, $4,500 for preparation and distribution of preliminary and final official statements, and $4,800 for miscellaneous expenses, travel, paying agent fees, etc. There's also a fee involved to have Moody's radar bonds, and their fee will be $13,000, and they'll be paid directly. And all these fees, including as the bond counsel, will be paid out of the proceeds of the bond, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7C, consider resolution R150912, initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $10 million in general obligation bonds of Cookeville, Tennessee. Finance Director Imel.
Yes, this is the initial resolution for the issuance of not to exceed $10 million in general obligation bonds. The proceeds of the issue will be used for the Bennett Road Extension Project. The project cost for that to include the acquisition of land right away, site preparation, construction, and wetland mitigation. We have also included in this bond issue a potential police station project. If the opportunity to move forward on that project becomes available, we wanted to include that in this bond so that we could take advantage of these proceeds for that project too. These 2 projects are the only 2 that are specified in the bonds, And given the timing and the size of these projects, we anticipate an additional bond issue in fiscal year 17 to complete either the Bennett Road project or the police station, or some combination of both, given the timing of how those projects proceed. And just a couple of slides to show you. This is our current debt outstanding, and this is the debt service of that debt outstanding. We currently have $15,846 in general obligation debt outstanding. This would be adding $10 million to that. And you can see this is the debt service on the current debt outstanding. And then this slide shows you in yellow what our current debt service is, and then the red would be the debt service on this proposed $10 million issue. And you can see the blue line there. That is our annual estimated revenue that we put into the debt service fund. So you can see we still have we have plenty of room there to make these payments on this debt issue. Let's see. And that's all I have for this debt issue, and I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Mayor, if I could, Brenda, let me ask you, under this model that we see, this $10 million, if we carry it out to this length, would be paid off in 2031, is that?
Yes,
is that
we
what I see?
typically do a 15-year amortization or term on our bonds.
Okay. Do we have, I know we don't have exact numbers, but you mentioned a second issue to come as it relates to either Bennett Road or the police station. Any rough ballpark idea about what that might be in terms of the amount?
Well, we're projecting possibly another $10 million issue on that, and we're trying to hold off on that until, early 2017, I think is what Mike and I are trying to do.
To the extent that we had 10 here and 10 there, how does that impact, how drastically does that impact our debt capacity?
Well, if we did this $10 million and another $10 million, and then we would still have a little bit of debt capacity left, of probably $5 to $6 million available if something would come up that we would have to borrow some money. So there would still be a little bit of a cushion left, and that's even budgeting conservatively in our debt service fund and keeping projected revenues kind of consistent with what they are now. So we're in pretty good shape.
Any other discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7D, consider resolution R150913, authorizing the execution terms, issuance, sale, and payment of not to exceed $10 million general obligation bonds, Series 2015 of the City of Cookeville, Tennessee, and providing the details thereof. Ms. Simon.
Yes, this is the detailed resolution of the bonds, and it provides, let me get up here. All the details and various provisions of the bonds. It includes definitions, authorization and form of the bonds, maturities, interest rates, and payments, and authorizes the mayor to execute all documents related to the sale, and all the provisions that we would need to have for the bonds, and I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries. Mr. Mayor, may I say something here?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked the mayor if he'd let me have a chance to say something. We talk about bonds; they're not very exciting. I mean, it doesn't really put goosebumps on our skin. But this is really a big deal. What we just passed. I've been thinking about this after our work session, and we're appropriating monies to dovetail this Bennett Road project in to the business park. And I hope people realize what a huge economic driver this is. We have now voted for, this council has now voted for, to provide the funding to have this done, and we're in the process of getting this road done. It's the shovel's not in the ground yet, but it soon will be. And this is I just want to extend my appreciation to all the folks that came before me, sitting here in this chair, that have made this point possible. Because 10 years from now, when this is done, we're going to be looking at this like we looked at, I think we're going to be looking at this like we looked at Highway 111. And how in the world could we have not done without this? And I just appreciate all the work that our administrators have done and city leaders have done and county leaders have done in order to get us to this spot right here. And I'll probably say something else when we put the shovel on the ground too for it. But it's a big deal. It's bonds, and it's not exciting, but I'm very excited about what we're doing, and I'm kind of nervous about trying to pay this debt off, but with the wisdom of our budget director, we have a great debt service, and we have it's conservatively funded and prognosticated, and we should still be in great shape. And I like the idea that we dovetailed the police department here too, just for a little extra flexibility. So thank you everybody for doing this, and I really look forward to seeing what this looks like 10 years from now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
But it won't take 10 years to build it.
No, but the 10 years.
Gotcha. Okay, 7E, consider resolution R150914, authorizing the electric department to adjust its retail rates to ensure the pass-through of the wholesale rate change amendments provided by TVA. Electric Department Director Tony Peak.
Mayor and council, in your package, you should have a resolution, as you read, the R15-09-14. Basically, just requesting your authorization for the electric department to pass through the 1.5% TVA increase. And my bullet notes, at the August 21st, 2015 board meeting, the TVA board approved a wholesale rate change amendment, which included the 1.5% retail rate increase. This increase, by passing it through for our average residential customer, be a little bit less than $2 per month. TVA indicates that the increase is needed as they shift more to nuclear power, natural gas, and renewable power to replace a lot of its old, aging coal plants that are being shut down. And the increase would further allow TVA to stick to its plan to reduce the debt and cut the carbon emissions by 40% from a 2005 level by 2020. And that would allow them to comply with the EPA's new Clean Power Plan requirements. And again, I would just request your approval to allow the electric department to adjust its rates to pass that through.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Tony, I want to preface before I ask you the question, I want to preface it with some brief remarks. First of all, you've done a remarkable job through the years of taking care of your customers and running this department, and I'm sure appreciate that. The cost of this, as I understand it, is $500,000 to $600,000. Am I right? Total cost.
After we discussed that and you asked that question, Councilman Henry, I went back and looked, and our current annual power bill is a little over $46 million, so we're probably talking about $690,000 to $700,000.
And so the options would be there to either pass that along to our customers or for the department to absorb that, one of the two. And I guess in good conscience, I have to ask in light of the comment I just made about customer care, if my understanding is correct, we have $10 to $12 million in reserves in the electric department. If I think that's your comment the other day, and if I were a consumer and I just watch my grocery bill, I know $2 a month doesn't sound like all that much, and maybe in the big picture of things it's not, but you know, with cost of food, cable TV, and Lord forbid if somebody's out there trying to help their kids go to college,
yes,
you know, I would have to ask, if we've got $10 or $12 million in reserves, why don't we take $500,000 of that and absorb it ourselves? I know there must be a good answer to that, but if I'm a consumer out there, I'd probably like to know the answer to that question.
Sure, very good question. We started the year with $10.8 million. We hope to end this fiscal period we're in with a little bit more, but basically, in giving that some thought, our monthly power bill over the course of a year averages in excess of $3.7 million. Our monthly expenses just to operate our department, including that power cost, is $4.75 million. So in essence, that $10.8 million reserve is about somewhere between 2 and 3 months operating to cover our operating expenses. And my fear would be that should the revenue stop for whatever reason, something catastrophic happen, we would only, with that amount, only be able to cover our expenses for 2.5 to 3 months. Through the years, I've heard numbers thrown out by TVA and others that a power system ought to keep somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% in reserves at all times, because TVA, in addition to being our power supplier, is also our regulator. So they keep a watch on our financial health, and 20% of $56 million, which is our plant's $2 million. So we're right on track where we need to be, and I would just hate to lower that.
How much? And you said they recommend 20 to 25% of the annual overhead
of our plant.
Okay.
And our plant's $56 million. So
did those reserves come from
11.2?
the reserves? Did they accumulate? Were they money that received from the ratepayers and the customers?
Some of it, a lot of that, and Mike and Brenda can help me here. A lot of that is amortization and depreciation. And that money is basically there to help fund capital projects and replenish the system as it ages.
Thank you, Tony, for the good job you do. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, just and Tony, correct me if you think, but I ran across this a long time when dealing with excess fund balance with the schools and the school board when I sat on the county commission. There was a lot of big pot of money sitting there, and you wonder why we have to leave that there. And you mentioned in case of a catastrophe, and one of the things that we don't ever think about is things like earthquakes or tornadoes or things like that. If our plant was to have a direct hit by a tornado, that is something that's real and could happen. And if we don't have the funds to do that, we would not be able to retool quick enough and put our city and the department in financial jeopardy if we didn't have those funds available. So,
Correct.
Playing with that fund a little bit, just because it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, it can mean real sacrifice and hardship if a catastrophe did indeed come up. And one of the things you mentioned in the work session, I wanted you to just mention briefly, is that usually TVA has been really good about not good. They've been usually passing on their costs like at 5 or 6%, and they've kind of changed that to instead of doing it over a 3 or 4 or 5, 10-year period, they're actually doing this about every year, a little bit more often.
Every year or so, and you're exactly right. TVA's had a little bit of a change in philosophy. Used to be, I can remember 6 and 8% rate increases, but they would be several years between. And now I think you're going to see TVA start taking smaller increases probably every year or so.
Have they ever cut our fees? Have they ever lowered?
I can remember in my 40-something years one time.
So there's hope.
So we can keep our fingers crossed, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments? All vote.
Thank you.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7F, consider approval of Hodges and Pratt proposal for appraisal services and litigation support fee relative to the Bennett Road project. Economic Development Coordinator Melinda Kiefer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What we have before you here is yet another step in moving forward with the completion of the Bennett Road Extension project. As we work through this with federal and state money on the project in partnership with them, we are required to follow certain rules and regulations and processes as we go through the right-of-way process. What we will have here is a request for you to approve second appraisal services and potential litigation services from Hodges and Pratt Company. They are an appraisal company well-known out of Knoxville. They will be utilized as a second opinion for any potential condemnation in hearings or proceedings we may be involved in the future. And then they will also provide litigation services at a per rate hour for depositions, pretrial, testimony, etc. And I request your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7G, consider awarding bid for Burton Branch Road Gas Line Relocation Project. Gas Department Director Jeff Mills.
Mayor and Council, the TDOT has designed a road project to realign and improve Burton Branch Road in the Allgood area. What that's going to do to us is we're going to have to replace, due to their requirements, we have to replace all our infrastructure inside of that project. This is an overhead view of it that kind of gives the whole project scope of what's going on. The lines in yellow are the ones we're going to have to replace. We put out a bid to offer that construction opportunity, and Bush Construction was the sole bidder on that at $135,140, and I'm asking for your approval for that.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry I've been kind of a little bit wordy tonight, but I meant to ask this in the work session. It's got a real simple answer to it, but since this isn't all good, I mean,
Yes, sir.
why?
To the first slide. If it's at 111 and 10th Street, basically. That's hard to tell from that slide, but
So I'm assuming the customers for this is going to be all good
they
recipients?
are all good customers, but they are our customers. We
But that-
provide all good with the gas.
So, but we're responsible to
Exactly, yes.
to fund that, okay.
Yes. And it is a SIA project, so there's no reimbursement available through the state on that, so.
Who calls, a what? An SA?
A state investment.
State Industrial
aid.
Access Grant.
Yes.
It's a similar project to the widening of Bennett Road south to Academy. It's the same type grant that's funding that. It's a grant that's funding this improvement to this road up here in Allgood. And utilities, if they're in the right-of-way, are required to relocate those for the road to be improved. So
Yes.
we're having to meet that state requirement.
Oh, okay. I just was curious. I'm like going, it's in all good. I'm like, and when you
Yeah,
threw
but
that
we do serve natural gas to all that area.
when you
so.
threw that SIA
That
on me, I
messed it
kind
up,
of, I
didn't it?
was messing my head up too, so I just had to ask. Thank you.
Any other comments? All vote.
Thank you.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
7H, consider approval of a water treatment plant pump repairs, Water Quality Control Department Director Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, last April, council approved a bid for us to have a raw water pump pulled out, taken to the shop and evaluated. They have evaluated that and made the necessary repairs. The invoice for that repair is $43,482. Would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
Thank you.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Very good. This concludes our agenda portion of the meeting. Now we'll have a time for citizens to wish to address the council on non-agenda items. Would anyone like to do that? Yes, sir. If you'll come up to the podium, a couple of points of order. Step up there and state your name and address. A statement of no more than 3 minutes may be made on items of general relevance. Once the timer sounds, you'll need to wrap up your comments within about 10 seconds, and comments should be directed to the entire council. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Timothy Golden. I live at the end of Hyder Mountain Road, 2132. And I'd just like to ask about how to go about getting the water line extended to the end of Hyder Mountain Road.
Well, this is a project that's, y'all have had some discussions. Mr. Kelly, I believe, has had discussions with you. Is that-
It's a private line on a single meter, and there's 5 houses on it. And I'd just like to know how to get my own personal meter.
You sure can, yes, sir. That'd be the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed it with you before, is that right? Where you
Yeah.
purchased property up there? and there's
Yeah,
a
it's been an
single-
ongoing issue, yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a private line there. The city ordinance, water main expenses outside the city shall be at the expense of the property owner, or it can be unless a capital improvement project approved by the council.
All right.
And so since other projects, you already have water access.
I do not currently have water. My water's been shut off. The woman that controls the water is mentally unstable, and I do have proof of this. I mean, she's currently cut my water off. I have a wife and 2 children.
That's
I mean,
awful.
I need water.
Mr. Rader, can you address the legal portion of that?
With respect to the lady you mentioned that has the water meter, if she cut your water off, you might have some remedy through the Chancery Court, but the city cannot build a private water line, and they cannot make a private individual access their water line. So you would need to consult an attorney and see if you don't have some remedy in Chancery Court if she's cut your water off. And I think you may have a chance to do that. I would look into that if I were you, but that's really a dispute between you and the other 5 individuals and the person who owns this meter and owns this line.
So how do I go about getting an extension on the water line?
Well, that would be up to...
There are 5 other houses on this line.
Well, as Mr. Kelly said, the city ordinance requires that if you or the property owners or the developers want to build that line and pay for it, you could do that, or you could ask the city council to budget it as a capital expense, but it's not in the budget as I understand right now, and the city is not obligated to do that outside the city limits.
I don't have an issue building a water line. The only issue I have is that it is 8/10 of a mile away from my home.
Well,
we're talking 8/10 of a mile. I mean, that's inconceivable for any one person to have to do that, to run a water line 8/10 of a mile.
Well, your best immediate remedy is to try to take some action against Ms. Boggs to have access to that water line that she's provided over these years. I mean, that's really a dispute between the 5 of you and this lady, and I would look into that. Because even if the city were to do a capital improvement, or even if you guys decided to build a water line, you're talking about a significant period of time and a significant amount of money. So you need an immediate relief, and you need to try to address that with Ms. Boggs through the legal process if you can.
This is the ongoing situation I'd like to have settled. I mean, I'd like to have access to my own public water.
Well, I would say you get the other 4 property owners, and I would consult an attorney and see if you can't get some remedy in Chancery Court to have access to this water.
Yeah, nobody up there has any money. I mean,
well,
there's no other people up there have money.
Well, there's a Rural Legal Services helps people that don't have money, and you might want to contact them. Their offices, I think, are in the arcade building on the square, and they help people who are in the same predicament you're in. That's what they do.
Can we make sure that he gets a number for that?
Great idea, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can somebody, Dan or Mike, will you make sure that he gets a number to have somebody to help him? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll make sure you get a number, somebody to call to try to help you. Okay.
I'm not speaking for the council. I'm not unsympathetic to your dilemma, but I'm afraid. I'm not speaking legalese. But I'm afraid if we get involved, it's going to muddy up the picture. And I'd appreciate if you guys would go through the legal process.
I'm willing to pay my part of it, but I can't pay all 5 people's part.
Well, yes, we're going to get you some numbers.
We'll get you some phone number, and maybe you can go through that course of action next, and hopefully that can get you some. Yeah. You have water now. You have a temporary.
I went to Lowe's and spent about $700 and bought water tanks, and I'm pumping water. I'm currently hauling water about 20 miles to my house, filling it up with tanks and pumping water into my house.
Okay.
A well pump.
Okay. All right. Miss Fowler will get you that number. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Did you have something you wanted to say? Yes, sir.
We just had a meeting of the Healthier Tennessee, the Cookeville branch of Healthier Tennessee yesterday at the health department, and Jennings Reagan was there, and she brought a letter, which is very nice, that we started this program back 3 months ago. And we've identified 3 areas of physical activity, including public walks, like walk with the mayor. I'm volunteering him for things, or walk with other members of the city council, say at Cane Creek through the Department of Leisure Services, Power of 10, nutrition things, better diets, and smoking cessation. And we've received this letter that says, I'm pleased to inform you that Cookeville has been chosen to work toward the Healthier Tennessee community designations. Congratulations and thank you. The work that you and your neighbors do will improve the quality of life there and make it an even better place to call home and set the example for communities across our great state. So we get a logo, an official logo that we can put all over the city if we so wish. We're having this monthly meeting at the health department, brainstorming ideas to find better ways to do more physical activity, better nutrition, and tobacco cessation. So I just want to give you heads up on what's been going on for the last 3 months.
Thank you for your work on that, Dr. Womack. We appreciate that. And also tomorrow night at Dogwood Park, the Tech Centennial Show, the museum exhibit, I believe, opens at 5 o'clock, and walk from Tech to Dogwood Park at 6:30, and then the show is in the amphitheater at 7 p.m. So, anything else?
Go Tech.
Did you have something?
Let me mention this real quickly. I didn't know if everybody's going to touch it. One of the most remarkable things I've seen happen since I've been in this community is this heart of the city playground that's happened over the last several months. And we've got a little mention here that, and just for public announcement, the construction is coming up Tuesday, September 29th, October 4th, and volunteers are needed. It's heartofthecitytn.com. If you need more information, there's a phone number, and the city's going to, community's going to build this. They're going to borrow the tools to do it. It's an incredible thing. It's going to be such an enhancement to our park down there, and a wonderful thing for children, be they challenged or if they don't have any challenges. And I would encourage folks to get involved. I know our church is, and individuals, so if you can be involved in spending a shift of work down there, that'd be wonderful as together our community builds this playground.
Thank you. All right, we will be adjourned.